Okay, we're ready to finish up this chapter with 11.5, which is a very simple chapter. It goes back to chapter 7 when we were looking at similar figures. Remember when figures were similar, I could compare side to corresponding side and come up with a scale factor that held true for all the sides of that particular figure as well as for the perimeter. But this time, we're trying to compare areas. So we're going to have to do just a little something extra. So when I want to find the area, you write this down. I'm going to find the area of similar figures, or polygons, if you will. I'm going to find the scale factor of my two shapes. So as I'm looking at example 1, I'm going to go the blue to the green. The blue side 12 corresponds to the 15. And when I reduce this by 3, I'm going to get that my scale factor blue to green is 4 to 5. So the first thing I do is find my scale factor of the polygons. Then secondly, I'm going to square the scale factor that I just found, because area is in square units. So I take my scale factor and I square it. Now this new scale factor is the scale factor for the areas. So now I can compare areas. So still blue to green. Comparing areas at 16 to 25. So in this particular case, let's see, it tells me that my area for the blue is 30. So 16 is to 25 as 30 is to x. So 16x equals 30 times 25. 750. Then divide both sides by 16. My x is approximately 46.875 square inches. So I found my scale factor, I squared it, then I used that as the ratio to set equal the comparison of my two areas. And I went blue to green, so I was consistent throughout. Let's look at a couple more examples. All right, in 1A up here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go blue to green, because I just usually work left to right. So that's 8 to 5 is my scale factor. I'm going to square that. So the scale factor for my areas would be 64 to 25. And if my blue area is 32, I'm going to put it on top. Now, if you'll just notice, 32 is half of 64, so x is going to be half of 25. So x is 12.5 square centimeters. Let's look at 1B. Again, my scale factor, I'm going to go blue to green, is 6 to 8. Reducing that is 3/4. Then I'm going to square that 3/4. It's going to become 9/16. It's the scale factor for my areas. The blue area is 13.5. I've got to find the area of the green. So 9x equals 16 times 13.5. 16 times 13.5 is 216. So if I divide each side by 9, I'm going to get that my area of the green shape is 24, and it's in feet, so square feet. Okay. Now, I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to be given the areas, and this time I want to find the length of one side. So if I want to find one side, I first compare my areas. Set up a fraction to compare the areas. And I'm going to reduce that. And once I reduce, I'm going to now take the square root. Because we had the square, the squared scale factor. Now we're going to go backwards. We're going to take the square root, and then we're going to use that new scale factor to compare sides and solve. So let's look at the example they gave us on example 2. I think I'm going to change color so that you can realize I'm doing the other method. We're going backwards this time. Okay. Now, we were given that the area of ABCD is 150 square inches, and then my little blue is 54 square inches. So again, I'm going to keep my blue to green ratio. So I'm going to have 54 is to 150. Let's see, let's start reducing that. That's 27 to 75. Divide by 3. It's reduced. That's 9 over 25. Then I'm going to take the square root of that. So my linear scale factor is 3/5. So 3 is to 5 as x is to 10. And I see that my x is going to be 6. And since this time I'm not looking for area, I'm looking for just the length of a side. It's not in square units, it's in linear units. Now let's pause for just a minute and you do 2A and 2B. And then I'll come back and work them for you. Okay, 2A. We're going to compare blue to green again. So I'm going to have 50 square inches compared to 72 square inches. I'm going to divide these by 2 because I want to reduce them. That's as far as I can reduce. So now I'm going to take the square root of those. And my new scale factor for the sides is going to be 5/6. So 5 is to 6 as x is to 6. Well, that's kind of easy. So that shows me that x has to be 5 inches. They gave us an easy one there, didn't they? Let's see if B is maybe a little bit more challenging. These aren't very difficult, so they can't make it much more challenging. We're going to compare area to area, so 464. Let's reduce those. Let's see, I know that 8 goes into each. And then, let's see, what do we need to do next? I divide by 2. So my reduced scale factor for the areas is 25/4. So I'm going to take the square root of that. So 5/2 is the scale factor that I need to compare the sides. So 5 is to 2 as 40 is to x. So that means that my x is going to be 16 millimeters. Okay? So those two types are all we're going to do in this section. Let's look at the homework part and just, I want to show you something for just a second, okay? All right, when I look at the homework that I've given you here, whoops, I've given you these 8 problems down here. Just look at these and see how they, which formula you're going to need. Now see, on 6 through 9, you're finding the area. So on these, you've got to get your scale factor first. And then square it. On the ones at the bottom, you're comparing area to area. So once you find the scale factor on these, you'll have to take the square root before you set up your ratio. So I just want to make sure that you're keeping those straight and that you're able to remember that. Now on a test, or on the test, it would be probably next Friday. I'm, about 99.9% sure it's going to be on the 21st. You can't come up and ask me which is which. You have to know these, okay? So the test is for you to demonstrate what you know and show me what you understand. So make sure you keep those straight, okay? That's all for this section, and that ends up this chapter. So I'm going to give you an opportunity in the next day or two, next class or two, I should say, to let me know how you felt about the flipped classroom. I think I've heard about equally. Some people liked it, some didn't. But for those of you who really liked it, this gave you a chance to do something in a way that was a little bit more positive for you, whereas we had been doing the other method the previous part of the year. So that's all for this video, and we will see you in that last video section in chapter 12, talking about volumes.